Bitcoin will be the leader of the crypto asset class. And if you look at it and say, well, is this good for Bitcoin or not? Yeah, I think it's good for Bitcoin. I think, in fact, it may be better for Bitcoin because I think that we are politically much more powerful, supported by the entire crypto industry. Last night, FIT21, the crypto bill was passed, and that will ripple to the rest of the world, right? However the US goes, it'll go to Singapore, the UAE, the EU, and there are even signs that it's already rippled into Hong Kong, but it may ripple back into China. This is going to be a case of a rising tide is going to lift all boats.
That's come through overnight. I mean, no surprise, he is known to be one of the more hawkish members of the ECB, and he's saying we need to wait until September to cut. The market is 21 basis points priced in for June. Is your expectation that the ECB goes in June?
Look, it's not a surprise that Germany would actually be more hawkish given basically their historical inflation stance. I think what we're into right now in terms of the stage is basically every central bank wants to be assured the next step is the right step. It isn't a situation where they want to go full blast and cut. But there's nothing really pressing them to actually go the reverse way in terms of how they've hiked over the past few months or the past few quarters. The position right now, I think, is more about wait and see. Let's see the data prints. Let's actually have a compelling case. And I think Germany will always have the same position in relative terms of inflation. Obviously, inflation is softening, but not at a pace that actually mandates an immediate response.
Yeah, I mean, their case is a bit different because the economy is so weak from a growth perspective. But, one of the themes that has come up the last couple of months is one of central bank divergence. And it appears as though more and more central banks are willing to just get going with their rate cutting cycle and are no longer willing to wait for the Fed. That is interesting, but how does that also create opportunities in this
Well,
space?
here we are again, basically looking at the situation where we do have different paradigms. We have the U.S. paradigm, we have the European paradigm, we have the Asian paradigm. Obviously, we saw Japan exit zero or negative rates in terms of pushing us back over the zero line. We're looking basically at a situation where you have different concerns. One, in Europe, obviously, the war in Ukraine actually created quite a bit of stress in terms of the overall economic picture. On the other side, the U.S., actually, they've been surprised. The Fed, by no measure, has been surprised. I mean, they've backtracked on a few points of view. So you do see divergence. But the main theme, I think, is looking at global central banks is where is the best next play? Yeah. So I think right now we have a division, yes. Obviously, we can see one cut from the Bank of England, one cut from the ECB this year. One cut was not priced into the Fed. Actually, it was 2 or 3 cuts when we began the year. Yeah. Right now, we're hoping for one cut, if not even a hike, if the data comes in more aggressive. It isn't just one print we're looking at. We're looking at 3, 4 prints before actually we see the Fed act. So I think what we're seeing now is the beginning of a divergence, as you said again, and the ECB will probably will act before the Fed. And the Fed won't act until we see a bit more color. So that gives us a bit more time in terms of equity markets. In terms of the U.S., we're still seeing quite a bit of push in U.S. equity markets because the paradigm has shifted. We're no longer looking at financials, or we're looking at an AI paradigm, where basically everything which has a beta to AI is actually rallying and carrying us through. So and that basically is the biggest market right now is the U.S. Yeah.
Welcome to the Crypto Teacher. And I come back with that video just to make you think.
Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel.
And make sure you join the Patrons. If you're not a part of the Patrons, make sure you're hitting the Cash App. And we have Michael Saylor speaking about the politicians changing the tune on crypto assets and saying politically that when crypto assets come together, of course, they're more powerful. And these digital assets are going to ripple through the rest of the globe. But guys, we know the fourth industrial revolution rises in the emerging markets. They're already ready to flip the switch. It's the United States that's behind. And we know that's on purpose because the U.S. is the last free nation. But he states the rising tide of Bitcoin is going to lift all. But guys, as we know, when Bitcoin rises, the rest of the crypto market rises. But we are going to go through that black swan where only 1% of 1% of cryptos are going to last. Remember, the NWO is going to pick the winners and losers. And remember, the Crypto Teacher told you, these cryptos are not for you, they're for the machines. Now we have the Fed and the ECB. And we have the ECB already stating they're going to be cutting rates soon. Of course, we get our popcorn, sit back, and let it play out. But this week is going to be very important. Guys, not only do we have futures contracts going to be ending this week, we also know the experiment of the T+1 this week. And then if you're part of my Patreon, we know how much liquidity they're going to need. And this is all a setup for real-time settlement. Remember, guys, this is a plan and moves in phases. But when you think about it, it is unbelievable. Everything that's going on right now, guys, I've been talking about forever. I wrote about it forever. But now it's here. And guess what? The sheep are sleeping, and the NWO is constantly building. The sheep stay asleep. They stay distracted on things that don't matter. But their whole life is being planned out. And we saw the AI push for the last year, year and a half. Stock market just keep moving up. No volatility, which is impossible. But we know all this is being ran by an algorithm. And we know eventually these markets are going to pull back. How do we know that? Because the drums are beating. We have immigrants trying to get on base. And you notice he states biometrics. Guys, we don't even use that type of terminology yet. And then, of course, we had Rafa on Memorial Day. The drums just keep getting louder and louder. And we know going towards the end of this year, they're going to be beaten even louder. Because we know this is election year. They're trying to keep everything as quiet as possible. And we know because it is getting hot, kids are out. People are traveling. They won't notice the difference of what's going on right now. Just like I stated, guys, this is amazing. So this week, we're going to know why there's going to be a roller coaster ride in markets, but the masses, the sheep, will have no clue. We're just going to see what type of narrative that the media is going to try to spin. And then we have China, Japan, and South Korea on trade. Now, guys, don't forget what Janet Yellen stated. She warned China about all the excess. And why is that, guys? Because, of course, if you're shrinking the excess, we see it in food, we see it in everything. When you come to sectors, they've been shrinking all supplies because they get to control it. We know all these American goods that people buy, we're not going to be buying anymore. We're just going to be buying the things that we need. The United States dollar is about to lose its power. And that means the budget has to change. And that means the government is definitely going to shut down. It has to shut down. They have to get this budget in order. But guys, we know they've already had this plan decades ago. So guys, you have 6 to 9 months to get yourselves prepared. Because we really don't know how this thing is going to end up. And just like I stated, on top of it, we have the drums are beating. And we know it's going to take about 3 to 5 years in order for them to build this fourth industrial revolution in the West. So they have to keep the sheep distracted. The signs of the fourth industrial revolution in America is definitely here. It's time to wake the sheep. And remember, the crypto teacher told you. Because he knows when it comes to the NWO, it's all planned out. You have a wonderful day.
The timing going into the U.S. elections, is that going to influence how the Fed decides on rates?
That's really the key maker here is will Powell bend into elections if the data actually is poor? The data right now, he has 2 key points really, right? He has unemployment and inflation. Inflation is moving as fast as it'd like to do. The consumer is definitely slowing down. Unemployment is not rising at a level which is alarming at this stage. So there is really no impetus, catalyst for the Fed to actually act a bit more aggressively. And in fact, their expectations were probably a bit more aggressive in terms of cutting due to concerns about unemployment or inflation dropping. So I think we're more likely to see the Fed stand back, watch 2 more prints before they actually commit once again. They made the mistake early on in 2024 where they've given forward guidance. I think they're more likely to be a bit more conservative because what we're seeing again is market forward guidance. The market expects cuts, so now we're stuck in this phase where the market is looking at forward guidance. Now we've shifted it to, well, let's hold on for a bit longer until we see a bit more convincing data. So the forward guidance function now is a bit shifting back and forth. It's not as important as it was before, but the market is still buying into that forward guidance.
So I was looking at a chart earlier on the show today and wearing an old hat that you used to wear a long time ago, back when you were on the sales side, cross-asset volatility. It just seems to be dropping and dropping and dropping. We talk about the VIX, interest rate volatility, FX volatility. Why is that the case? Why are implied options trading at such low volatility levels?
So let's just step back for a second. We've had two geopolitical events over the past 2 years of significance. We have Middle East, we've had Ukraine and Russia. There's really, we're coming out of COVID, right, over the past 4 years. We haven't had events affect us in the way that we thought they would affect us, and primarily vol is bought when you have expectations of a paradigm shift. Right now, we see nothing. In the short term, you have this amazing rally in equities driven by AI or technology. Market has not responded to rate hikes in the way we thought they would respond. Discounting hasn't really been the key driver. What we're looking basically at right now is a trend, a continuous trend of buying assets because money is cheap. Liquidity in the market is immense. Despite rates being where they are, the amount of liquidity with the financials is tremendous. Allocation is tremendous. People have left to allocate a tremendous amount of assets. So what we're seeing is a step back, especially given the summer month we're going into, plus the election cycle coming on. There's really not many people taking a swing at a change in the overall trend.
On Jennifer's reporting, Chechens, Jordanians, some of them just crossed the border. What's going on?
Well, this thing of our military bases getting penetrated by foreign nationals is happening more and more. This is something we see probably 2 or 3 times a week, where we're stopping these folks at the gate. With a week at least, and this is just Navy alone, where we're seeing folks try to come in, and usually the cover story is, and I'm a student, I'm here, I'm an enthusiast, I want to see the ships, that type of thing. We have to turn them around, and typically we get NCIS involved with those, and we get biometrics when possible. But yes, there's been an uptick in that.
Do they have passports? Do they have?
A lot of times they have passports.
Papers?
They have papers, yes, but they're in no way, shape, or form authorized to be on our base. And it's really hard for us to tell the underlying motive for these type of cases.
Wow, that's stunning.
It is.
It's got to be a concern.
This is Russian, Chinese. This comes from all these different nations. We're seeing an uptick in it.
In addition to that, there's been some reporting on this over the last 6 months. You're getting 2 or 3 drones flying over military bases in America per week.
That is no question.
Rafah yesterday. Officials with the Jewish state say civilians died from a fire that broke out after the strikes.
Trey Yinks is live in Israel. Trey, what can you tell us about these civilians that have died in this attack?
Yeah, hey guys, good morning. Yesterday we saw long-range rockets fired from Gaza towards central Israel, and later in the evening, horrific scenes out of Gaza's southernmost city of Rafah.
This afternoon, Janet Yellen is taking aim at Beijing over what she sees as overproduction of several key technologies. That includes solar, electric vehicles, and lithium-ion batteries. Yellen is saying she'll be pressing Chinese officials to address overcapacity during her upcoming trip to China. She said she'll make it a key issue in discussions, arguing that excess capacity in these industries hurts not only American workers and firms, but also China and the global.
Yeah, we've seen fresh lines coming up this morning. Premier Lee said to be urging Korea and Japan to maintain strategic autonomy and to uphold the multipolar world, avoiding camp politics. Now, this is really China's way of telling Korea and Japan not to align with the U.S. when it comes to foreign and trade policies. This is a time when Washington has been pushing Korea and Japan to get on board by imposing limits on chip-making equipment exports to China.
We're going to a different economy, and we're going to be learning more about that as we go. But clearly, we're learning that things can be done from remote locations. We're learning that technology can replace people even more than we thought.
We're not going back to the same economy. We're recovering, but to a different economy, and it'll be one that is more leveraged to technology. And I worry that that is going to make it even more difficult than it was for many workers.
In Silicon Valley, and my friends who work in technology know that what we did to the manufacturing workers, we are now going to do to the retail workers, the call center workers, the fast food workers, the truck drivers, and then even bookkeepers, accountants, insurance agents, lawyers, and on through the economy. So what happened to the manufacturing workers is a very clear sign.
And so we'll import Chinese-based CBDC technology. So it's going to be CBDC in a box provided to you by the People's Bank of China.
But every stock, every bond, every currency, every commodity, every piece of art, every private business, every piece of real estate will eventually be a token on a blockchain, an entry on a ledger, permanent and immutable. We will have truth instead of trust. and we will save over $7 trillion a year. 6 to 8% of global GDP is wasted by the friction of the trust industry that's necessary when you have dual entry accounting. With triple entry accounting, which is what a blockchain is, we get rid of all of that friction. It's a beautiful future.
Like what you see in China and their social credit scoring systems, right? If we get identity wrong, it could be a tool to enslave humanity. And if we get it right, it could be a tool to liberate humanity. And as an American, I'm obviously rooting for the one that's on the side of freedom.
Bitcoin is an international asset. And also, I do believe the role of crypto is, it's digitizing gold.
I actually believe this technology is going to be very important. Look at it. We have been part of a huge revolution in investing through ETFs. We believe that ETFs will be changing the whole way we invest. Many people still use it as a means, people are investing it for indexing. No, the majority of people who are putting money in in ETFs are active investors that are buying exposure. The entire bond market is being transformed as we talk right now. I believe the next generation for markets, the next generation for securities will be tokenization of securities. And if we can have that distributed ledger that we know every beneficial owner, every beneficial seller, we all have our code of who's buying, who's selling, instantaneous settlement. And think about it, it changes the whole ecosystem.
Chinese bank ICBC has been hit by a ransomware attack, and the U.S. Treasury market, as a result of that, has been disrupted. This, according to the Financial Times. We're getting it more right now with Bloomberg's Sonali Basak. Sonali, what do we know?
Listen, we have the Financial Times now reporting that ICBC, one of China's largest banks here, was hit with a ransomware attack. And remember, they're a very significant intermediary in the Treasury market. The SIFMA has told its members that this has been part of the reason here that the system is kind of clogged up, if you will, during that auction that we saw a little bit before. The attack had prevented ICBC, according to the Financial Times, from settling Treasury trades on behalf of other market participants. A large executive at a major bank also telling the paper that such a large party on the fixed income clearing corp creates major concerns, potentially impacting the liquidity of Treasury markets.
Now, it was not just a poor auction. It was absolutely lousy, and when the dealers have to step in to save a treasury auction, that's a rare occurrence.
I hate when countries go off the dollar. I would not allow countries to go off the dollar, because when we lose that standard, that will be like losing a revolutionary war. That will be a hit to our country, just like losing a war. And we can't let that happen. And too many countries now are fighting to get off the dollar.
Cryptoteacher and the New World Order book, plus the 3 kids books. It's time to re-educate. Also, new to cryptos, Coinbase, Bitrue, Binance. Do not forget book links and crypto links are in the description. The stock channel, guys. Don't forget to go like, subscribe, spread everywhere. You have your Kobo, your chip stocks, your banking, your gaming. While everybody's sitting at home, get on stocks, the Seaver, the biotech stocks. And while everybody's at home wishing they were still getting that free money, what are they doing? Drinking and smoking weed. Don't forget about those stocks, and you have a wonderful day. The most powerful person in the world is the storyteller. The storyteller sets the vision, values, and agenda of an entire generation to come. Steve Jobs. And guys, I truly believe in this. When you look at the New World Order, they're the storytellers. And that's the reason why I wrote my New World Order book. But guys, now it's time to change the current generation. And I wrote 3 kids books. I love the Trinity because I understand the power that's in it. So I have 3 books. We have an opportunity to change the generation, to educate, not just me, but I want to show you that I take action on a daily basis. And I want you to take action on a daily basis. Whether it's your job, whether it's in your community, we have an opportunity right now to educate the masses. I posted this on my Twitter account. Please share, but this is a short clip of the 3 books. There's going to be a clothing line and action figures. Please get these books for your kids, nephews, cousins, friends, so therefore we can start the re-education now. Because as we see, the fourth industrial revolution foundation is definitely here. Robots, algorithms, drones, taking humanity out the picture. We have to re-educate. But let's get into the video.
Part 1. King Joshua and Grandma Tam save the village. Part 2. King Joshua and Grandma Tam save New York from COVID-33. Part 3. King Joshua and Grandma Tam goes to China.
It's mandatory to get part 1, part 2, and part 3 of this series. It's time to re-educate Generation Z.